Hello and welcome to Colin Bradley Art Cast. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
How you doing, Dad?
We've been well, Steve, and it's been quite a long time. I had to search my memory, which is not as good as it used to be, as what we did last time. It was so long ago.
It was.
Anyway, we've caught up now. There's lots of things to talk about. You've got some exciting stuff.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we've been fairly busy. It's been hard to get the time, as I know people are really sort of sympathetic of just how busy things are, and we still want to keep doing these podcasts, but they just might not be as frequent as they used to be. But I know that I've been speaking to a few people on email that are just discovering our podcast, and they're going
Really?
back and listening to all of the episodes. And
Wow.
I said, you got 12 years worth of episodes there, so it might take you a while. But yeah, no, it's been great. There's a few things really we want to talk about, and a new picture. You've been very busy doing lots and lots of things. But yeah, and been a new class that's come out on the website as well that people may have seen. So we can just talk about that. Actually, let's start with that because that one is a stunning one. That's the Old Man in Shadow,
Mm,
uh,
mm.
the really stunning picture, and that one is up on the website. That is one of your sort of shadow series of using four pencils. The Cretacolor 229, 250. People will be familiar with that. So that is available, and that is on the website now for people to watch. There is another one coming in the next week or so, which is the Superb Starling. It's just another bird. It's been a while since we've had a
Okay.
bird picture on the website, and I know people love to do the birds. So a bird picture is coming up soon as well. And we'll talk about a new picture as well that you've done. We'll show that up on the screen for everyone. But the first couple of things we want to talk about, because there has been some developments in the last month of things that I've been working on in the background. And the first thing which we're quite excited to discuss is the bringing back the online shop. Now, it's going to be a slightly different shop to what people would have seen before. It's not going to be exactly as the same as it was. And the reasons we closed the shop are still the same. It's hard to compete out there in the market with so many companies selling these products at such a competitive price. And Amazon is also an absolute powerhouse in killing any kind of independent shop. It's really, really hard. But since we closed the shop, uh, we've seen people still need some of the specific products that we used to stock, mostly your products, Dad, that you used to that
Mm.
you created yourself, like the square drawing grids and the starter packs and things like that. So we've what I've been able to do here is I've managed to find a warehouse and a company that is going to be able to take over the actual logistics of this, because that was always an issue as well. And we still, unfortunately, have the issue with sending parcels abroad in that they just don't get through customs, even though we do all the customs documents. We tell them what it is. They still just either get hung up in customs for weeks, or they just never arrive. And that seemed like that was occurring almost with every parcel. So without charging, a crazy extortionate amount for a courier, like FedEx or DPD or whoever, or to actually take the parcel and deliver it within a few days, um, it was just not feasible, and it was just not fair on our international customers. So for now, until we can find out a better solution, this is just going to be a UK only delivery for specific products. And we're starting with the square drawing grids, and we're starting with the starter packs. And people will be able to buy those. I'll let you know when it's all done. Basically, I've got to go down to the warehouse, who are the guys that sorting it all out for us, and send them all the stuff and drop it off and sort it all out. And then they can start dispatching your orders. So what I thought would be interesting to discuss on this podcast is if there's anything else that people would like to see us stock, um, before we sort of expanded and grew, and and the room that I had, the sort of stocking area that I had at our previous house was just rammed full of products because we slowly expanded and got into pan pastels and zest it and watercolors and the luminance Caran d'Ache pencils. I ended up having like 5 ranges of pencils just surrounding me. It was quite chaotic. But those products you can kind of get anywhere and probably quite a competitive price. So I'm thinking that people probably won't be expecting those. But if there's things like color shapers, perhaps people might want us to stock color shapers. I know that they can be bought elsewhere, but if they have been struggling to get those, then they can come to us. So yeah, I'm throwing it out there to our listeners, and I'll pop this up on Facebook as well. The online shop is coming back, but for specific products, and we'll see how it goes. But mostly the starter packs and the square drawing grids. So we'll keep everyone posted about that. But yeah, it's exciting, isn't it, Dad? It's nice to bring those products back to people as well. This is going to lead us on to the next topic as well. So in this decision of bringing back the shop, I've re-established connections with a lot of our suppliers, and that led us to our paper supplier for the Fabriano. And I know people have been having trouble getting hold of that. I've been helping people source it online in various locations. And it actually turns out it's quite devastating news. The Fabriano Ingres has been discontinued by Fabriano. It's actually not being manufactured anymore, which is why people are struggling so much to get hold of it. And when I told you, Dad, you weren't really surprised.
Well, no, the difficulty is, as you know, I've almost completely gone over to pastel mat now, and I do prefer it. It's a bit pricier, but it's a much better product. Only thing is, I've got a. I think people who are starting out would find that quite hard to do. I might be wrong, even though I do show the system very well and very in all the procedures that you need. I still think they might struggle. So I think it's a good idea to try to find something to replace Ingres, really.
Yeah.
Perhaps something without a tooth, because it was a tooth. I never worried about the tooth, but people did find that a little bit disconcerting.
Well, this is actually another question we could throw out to our listeners as well, because luckily we've actually got quite a fair bit of Fabriano. I found some in the move that was for the starter packs, which is why we will keep the starter packs going with the Ingres inside
for the time being. Yeah.
For the time being, yeah. But I can also see if I can package up packs of 10 Fabriano, sheets, because we do have. I don't actually know how much we have. It's not a huge amount, but we do have some. So we'll be stocking that on the website, so people can snap up the remaining stock if they want. But it would be interesting to hear other people's views about other papers, because we can try and see if we can source that. And I suppose the criteria we're looking for is kind of what Dad said, is about like finding something that is good for beginners, perhaps isn't quite as that doesn't take quite as much as effort as pastel mat, when a lot of pastel's got to be put on pastel mat. But if people have recommendations, we have actually requested some samples of different papers from our suppliers to see if we can find something that is slightly thinner, because it's got to be able to run through a printer as well, because when we're producing the packs, we're printing that line drawing onto that paper. What else would you say, Dad? It's got to have that kind of neutral colour as well, like a sand kind of colour.
I would say that's almost certain. The sand colour paper that we had was perfect. I think it was just the right colour, and something like that would work. If you get too dark a colour, the problem there you're going to have is you've got to cover it, and this is what people starting out would have the problem with. Keep laying up. I mean, I layer and layer and layer, probably more with pastel mat than I did with Ingres. But it can be it can be awkward because once you put one colour on, then put another colour on, then put another colour, and you start getting muddy effects.
Mm,
So I think that would happen if the paper was too dark. So
yeah.
I think something more neutral. I tell you what does work quite well, the grey. That is the light grey pastel matte. That is a good colour, and I tend to use that a lot. But I still use the sand pastel matte, which is not that far away from the ombre. It's a bit darker, and I
Mm,
still use that and like that. So those are the colours that I would personally recommend people actually look at. Don't go
yeah.
dark. If you go dark, you're going to have a problem
Mm,
unless um, you know what you're doing.
yeah. So if people could bear that in mind as well, that we kind of
Mm,
need a sandy color. But we're open to suggestions, really, to
mm.
see what people's experiences have been. Would love to hear your thoughts, and obviously, if we can try and get hold of it, then brilliant, because we'd like to offer people an alternative to Fabriano that isn't pastel matte. So yeah, again, exciting. It's a bit sad about the Fabriano, but you know, it was kind of to be expected. It wasn't a popular paper, not like pastel matte. So yeah, it's one of those things. We'll work with it, but we have got a stock of some left, so we'll see about making that available. Um, the other thing as well, which is interesting, because if people want to get in touch with us now, the podcast has moved hosting providers now. It's now hosted on Spotify. And if you do listen to our podcast on Spotify, you can actually watch it on there now as a video.
Oh,
So yeah, so if people are, they can still watch us on YouTube, but if they want to watch us on Spotify, you can switch between audio and video versions. And you can also comment on the podcast on Spotify. So if you want to drop us a comment or question or anything in response to what I've just been chatting about for the last 10 minutes, then they can do inside Spotify. And we'll pick those up, and we'd love to hear your comments. And you can also watch us on there as well. So that's a new thing that's happened. Anyway, let's move on to you, Dad, and what you've been busy doing this last month. And we'll start off by showing a picture that you have completed, and it's a little while ago, so I hope you can remember what it was, Dad.
oh, yes,
I'm just going to
yes.
show it up on screen now. Everyone should be able to see it. But look at this gorgeous cat that you've done, and it was a cat last time, actually, wasn't it? You've done a couple of
I have
cats
to tell
recently.
you, I've done another one.
It's another one.
Yeah, I think that the reason I do this, first of all, the cats are very, very popular. And I find that the dog fraternity, people that love dogs, and I love dogs too, but they tend to stick to their own breeds. Now, cats, doesn't matter, they're all the same. Well, they're not all the same, but people love them.
Yeah.
You've only got to look at the websites that show the animals, and it's always cats. And they're so lovely, beautiful animals, very independent animals. And what I like about it is particularly this one that we've got on the screen at the moment. Look how intelligent they are. You look at it through the eyes and you think, that's a wonderful expression. Now, this is what you can capture, and what I love to capture with the pictures that I produce.
Mm.
And the other thing about that too is the cat's fur. Now, if we look at this one particularly, look how natural the fur is. I've looked at quite a lot of very good pictures that have been produced by other artists with other mediums, and whilst they've been very, very well put together, they don't have that sense of realism that our pastel pictures do. And it's to do with it's the pastel itself, but it's the paper too. That's pastel matte there that we're using. But it's also the colour shapers. Now, you mentioned the colour shapers. I think if you're a pastel artist and serious about it, you've got to get them. There's no way out. I'm using them almost all the time now in every picture because that's what fluffs it up. If you look at the fur, particularly the background fur of this, because it's like you've got a faded background really of the cat, which is why the cat comes forward, and that's why the eyes and the face stand out so well. Well, that background that we've got, plus the fawny coloured background itself, they merge together. And that's as a result of the colour shaper. If you didn't have the colour shaper, you'd have to either use your finger, which is okay, but it's not the same thing. So this is what I'm finding now that I've all my tools that I've got now I'm using to the best advantage. So I
Mm.
hope that helps people.
Mm. It's interesting, and this one reminds me of the kind of the laying dog that you did. That's in pastel. Like it's another one of that the animals laying down, chin on the ground, chin on the carpet, and I think it's
Mm.
such a really relaxed pose. It's really interesting to capture.
Mm.
What's interesting about this texture is it's like a carpet. It's like how did you go about kind of an out of focus carpet? Like that's almost like it's almost like you've not drawn anything, but you have drawn something.
Well, it's interesting because when a few pictures ago I introduced this, and it was a dog I did, and I thought, how am I going to do this carpet? You can't put strokes in; it doesn't work. And I worked at it, found the answer, and now I'm producing it. And this is a very, very good example of it. You
Mm.
start off with the ivory, and then you add the ochres, but you don't. And I would have blended that with a colour shaper too, but not too much. You don't want to
Mm.
overblend, otherwise it all goes together.
Yeah.
And the technique is wonderful to watch. I love doing it, and you might find a few more now coming up like that because
What?
it
Go
looks
on.
so good with the picture.
Mm. What I love about it as well, and I can't remember if we've seen this before, is in that black fur, a ginger cat with ginger fur, and obviously the black fur of a ginger cat is going to have ginger in it as well, ginger tones. And especially as we're looking at the picture on the right hand side of the face, you can see that ginger threaded through the black
Mm,
fur,
mm,
which is obviously
mm,
very natural.
mm. I tell you how I did that, if you like. You start off with the greys. That's the first thing you've got to do. Start with grey. That would be neutral grey, lighter grey, or medium grey in this particular case. And then you put the ochres into it, right? And when you start off, you're looking at more ochre. There's no dark there. And then you introduce the dark and then run them together. You'll have to watch the video to find how I did that. And then once you've done all of that, you then reintroduce the ochres again and then use the colour shaper, and it all blends together. This is why you've got to have that base to start off with. If you don't have the base, you ain't going to do it.
Mm, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Because of that, those techniques and the picture in general, the carpet, is this a hard picture to do? What level are you pitching something like this at?
Well, when I first of all, I would probably have put this in the advanced section or the intermediate. No, no, I'd have said advanced. But now, because I've simplified the technique, really, you probably put it in the intermediate. I wouldn't put it in advanced as much. I mean, the more experience the artist's got, the better job is going to make of it, of course.
Mm.
But I do give very precise instructions as to how it's done. And this is the one beautiful thing about the video, because that does take it back to the beginning, and this is how it's created. But it's, I would say that it's intermediate, this one. You wouldn't think that looking at it, would you? You think it's, gosh, that's
Yeah,
so hard. I've got
yeah.
to say, it's probably hard to produce a picture as good as that. if you're starting out, you wouldn't be able to do it. You've got to have experience. But the techniques that we've got now are much simpler than they used to be.
Mm. Excellent, excellent. I love it. I think it's great. It's got a lot of character, this picture, and it looks very, very good. So yeah, that, as you mentioned, Dad, that will be another picture on the website. You said as well you've done another cat. Maybe we'll touch on that, about it in the next episode.
Yep. Yep.
But it's great. It's great. It's good to see your current work. As I mentioned as well, a new bird, the superb starling. Love that name. That picture is going to be up on the website as well in the next couple of weeks. And if you haven't already seen the Old Man in Shadow on the website, it's a great watch, even if you're not doing the picture. Like you'll learn so much just through watching it. And that class is available to members of the website, but also sold separately. So if you want to buy that class as a one-off, you can. Excellent stuff. Well, we'll come back soon with another episode. In the meantime, do let us know your feedback and your thoughts about the paper and about what products you'd like to see. And if you're not currently a member of our Facebook group, head on over there. Just search for Colin Bradley School of Art students, and you will be able to join for free. And we'll continue the discussions on there, and you'll be able to find out when the shop is live, and if you're in the UK, when you can order. Great stuff. Excellent. Right, we'll leave it there for this week. Thank you, everyone, for watching and for listening. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley. Enjoy your week.